Did you know most Hamilton apartments are unaffordable to rent? According to a report that was released by CMHC, most vacant apartments require an income of $65,000 per year or more to rent an apartment in Hamilton. What do you think about this? Are you in the rental market? I'm curious to see if you are feeling this yourself. Drop a comment below and let me know. My name is Justin Little, and I am a realtor here in Hamilton. I make educational videos about the real estate market. Now, if you find anything in this video to be valuable information, I would really appreciate it if you popped a like on the video as well. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and join our growing community. And if you're looking to get a hold of me directly, you can book an appointment with me using the link in the description below to book that appointment at a time that is convenient for you. Let's jump into this report. So, CMHC released this report about Hamilton saying that at the time of the report, 12% of the available units in the city required an income of $45,000 or more per year, whereas the vast majority of these vacant units required an income of $65,000 per year or more. Now, when CMHC talks about affordability, they are using 30% of your annual income and saying that is what you can apply to your rent, and that's what makes it affordable. So, according to that, the average empty unit would need to cost about $11.50 per month in Hamilton. I haven't seen a unit that costs $11.50 per month in Hamilton. I'm curious if you have. I don't think it exists. So I do get that frustration there because the typical one bedroom has just crept over 1,750. I think it's like 1,764, something like that. So $1,750 for a one bedroom apartment. So if you're, single and you don't make $65K a year, then it is incredibly hard to afford an apartment in Hamilton. I have to agree with them there because I don't see that 1150 target even being hit in this city. So I don't know where they're pulling that. But some of the factors that are driving this up, some of this is from them, but a lot of it's from at least my own thought process on it. But the higher interest rates have affected more than just home buyers. It really has affected the rental market. The reason being, and I've seen it, a lot of clients took their foot off the gas that were going to purchase a home and ended up resorting to renting because the affordability just wasn't there. Even though prices have come down significantly since the peak in the market, the affordability month to month because of the high interest rate just made it so much harder to get into the market as a buyer. So these would-be buyers have resorted to renting, creating a higher demand in rent. And another thing added to this is just a lack of units being built to keep up with that demand. So a lot of units that were sold over the last few years, new construction or things that were built, pretty much were for I'm not going to say owners, they were owner investors, but they weren't for people. They weren't purpose-built rental units. Like nobody's been building these big 60, 100-unit rental buildings. All these buildings are being sold as condos, and 1 out of every 5 purchasers was an investor. So at least you're getting some of the inventory coming from them. However, I just don't think it's enough to keep up with it. And as well, getting back to the interest rates, when we talk about that, that results in increased costs for landlords. So landlords, in effect, as their mortgages go up because of the variable rates or they're purchasing properties that have these higher interest rates, they need a certain amount of money to cover the rent. And unfortunately, because of the demand, the rents have been increasing and the landlords have been getting these rents. In fact, according to CMHC, in the last year, rents in Hamilton increased by 5.2%, which is the biggest increase we've seen. And in fact, the vacancy rate is at 1.9%. It is the lowest vacancy rate in Hamilton since 2002. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with that. Another thing too that CMHC mentions is we've had a huge spike in student renters. And as well, one other factor that we have to start taking into consideration, maybe hasn't happened yet, but I think will have an effect, is a ban on foreign buyers. In fact, I had a buyer come in on a property, showed it to him. He's been in the country for less than a year. We spoke with a lawyer, mortgage broker, and unfortunately wasn't able to purchase a house because of the ban. So this results in him renting, and he has a good job here in Canada. So this is just creating more demand for rent, and the supply isn't there. But how can we sort of make rent more affordable? And I think the key is we have to increase the supply. Now, one thing that actually Doug Ford did that was pretty cool was allowing the creation of multiple units in a dwelling on a property without having to go through the red tape of changing the zoning and all that. Because if you tried to buy a house and convert it to a duplex 3-4 years ago, it was long. There was a lot of red tape. It was very difficult to do. The average investor, first time investor coming in off the street, that just wouldn't be in their wheelhouse. It took a very specific set of skills. And so with that, this red tape being cut by the Ontario government in Hamilton, they basically overrid the municipal government and said, listen, we're going to allow people to build up to 2 accessory units on their property to create more rental units, which is great. And typically these units are smaller, so it does provide different levels of rent. You're getting, 2 bedrooms, you're getting 1 bedrooms, but it's really cool. In fact, I even toured one this week earlier that was a garage conversion down in Rosedale. It was on a corner property. The house had been converted into 2 legal units, one upstairs and one in the basement, and then another legal suite, garden suite, in the garage. And it was actually beautiful. It was nicer than some of the condos, actually probably nicer than most of the condos that I've seen built in the last few years. So that option there is fantastic because it's encouraging people to create these units easier. And even though I'm saying easier, I'm going to say one thing. It is still incredibly hard to find information on this process and how to do it. In fact, coming up in the next few months, I'm going to be interviewing somebody that does the legal basement conversions. And then I'm also planning to do a walkthrough on that garage unit that I was talking about to show you options of these rental units. But this is one way that we can increase the supply. Another is if the interest rates start to go down, then a lot of these buyers that were sidelined and forced to rent are going to jump back into the market, and that will take some of the demand away from renters. So if you're not looking to purchase a house, you now have all these people jumping out. A lot more units are going to become vacant, a lot more supply. And that's just one thing that could affect it. Another thing to touch on, and I made a video about this not last week, 2 weeks ago, about the vacant property tax in Hamilton. Hamilton is beginning to tax vacant property owners. So with this, people are going to want to rent it out or they're going to sell it. I don't know. It could go either way if it's vacant, but in some cases, I think people are going to choose to rent. So that is going to be a creation of more units. So hopefully some of these things help to get it back on track. But I think the driving thing that needs to happen is just the creation of more units would be the biggest factor. Where do I see rents going? So I always like to end on something just from my perspective, from where I see, but with the rates going so high, like rents are increasing significantly because so many people have been cut out of the market for buying. And of course, when people buy, they're obviously purchasing homes and they're taking homes that may have been rented away from potential renters, but they're getting out of the rental market themselves. So I think as long as the rates stay where they are, it's going to keep putting pressure on the rental rates in Hamilton. I think they're just going to keep going up because I don't see a horizon where the supply just dramatically increases. I think unless Hamilton makes it easier for the creation of these rental units, makes it more streamlined, makes it for the everyday person who owns a home and wants to put a suite in their basement, they make it super, super, super simple. I think it's, we're still pretty far from that. But I think as long as the rates are high, rents are going to stay high. That's essentially what I'm getting at and rambling about here. But if the rates do go down and we take some buyers out of these places, then I think it could create and open some units, and the demand, will hopefully they'll be able to find units because the supply has increased. So basic economics. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. I actually found this to be super interesting because I think we've been talking about it for the last year, how unaffordable the rents have become in Hamilton. And it looks like it's just going to keep trucking on. So the CMHC report was super informative. Anyways, I'd love to hear what you think. Drop a comment below. But thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate it each and every single week, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. Take care.